championships, world championships. I think I'll stick to board 1 and then move on to the other boards, depending on where we're going, where the exciting games are. So what did Carson do now? Started as West Sicilian. Hey, Shoyos, how are you? I'm just following the World Championship, the Rapid, but I would be very happy to play with you at some point. Definitely be very happy to play you at some point. I would definitely take you up on your challenge. Not immediately, but I would definitely take you up on your challenge. Normally, Paul gives me feedback on my sound. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, I actually have played this line before, and it's very tricky. The only difference here is where Carlsen put his knight here on e2. The only reasonable idea is that he wants to push f4. Oh, was that what was played? Or did I? Oh, looks like he played f4. I've never actually seen this particular setup, but it is very logical. The concerns would be that obviously black could utilize these squares with his knight. It could be highly irritating. No, this is more, I think what happened is, yeah, this looks a little bit more sober. Decided to take on f6, bishop f6. Not compromising. And in this particular position, I think even if you were to push f4 without the knight being able to jump to the squares, it might be good. But even then, I don't think it's good because black has got the bishop here, so white wants to keep the position as close as possible. So maybe knight e4. You also have this idea where you want to push b4 at the right time. It's really could be tricky. He goes h5. So black is very not joking here. Okay, so he immediately goes c5. So the knight could come through here. There's a rook here. You would be able to put pressure on this pawn. The way he is meeting the wing threats is by just a reaction in the center. I'm not sure how black could carry out an attack. He doesn't really have sufficient amount of pieces on the king side. But maybe he wants to play h4, open a line there. Then maybe when he puts his bishop here, it would be immune from attacks like h3. So after c5, he went bishop e7, put pressure on d. So you can't really easily put your knight on c4 to put pressure here. Really, So Carlsen protects with rook c1. And here he plays a4. This is to prevent something like this, b4. And Carlsen takes advantage of this momentarily. These are like typical ideas in this kind of setups. So through tactics, he gives Carlsen a chance to actually put pressure on e5, and this is, it's not an advantage, but it's like a step in the right direction for white. The idea is that you can't actually take on c5, because now after bishop c6, pawn takes c6, yes, this move knight to e5, and this is handy because now he's also taking here. And yes, he does have light square weaknesses, but I don't think it's enough, because I think also this pawn is in danger. So knight c4 is just very good timing on white's part. And of course, Carlsen is a very, it makes it a habit to win this kind of positions. He likes positions where he can slowly improve. Instead, and here we're gonna see a classic exploitation of something that used to not happen a lot before computers were very strong. So in the old days, what used to happen is people wouldn't take these kind of pawns because they would just say, well, the light squares are weak. But here, Carlsen will demonstrate that this actually you can keep. So the question is, how does he deal with this bishop f4? f4 would create the necessary weakness that black is hoping for, and the kind of open position that you want in this position. But yeah, this is like a very surprising idea, where he gives back the sort of the exchange, takes the pawn, and the bishops are more dangerous in this position than the knights are, than the rooks are, because of, you know, access to diagonals. But white has gotten 2 pawns for this exchange, so it's not even like a sacrifice. It's just an exchange with a better position. The only thing you would need to really properly evaluate is on the king side. So now, and also this move obviously attacks the queen, so the queen has to find the square, and we'll see if white can keep this option of offering this exchange. Because if he gets away with not giving up any material, he just has got a superior position without question. Thank you, Greod. Welcome. Yay! Thank you, Emma. grey order actually. Kevin was asking, I think was speaking to Emily, and they've set up something. I don't know if you know about it. So playing something like Queen C7 could run into F4, and it's a pure material game because in that line, let's say you take, he takes, there's threats of knight takes. In fact, after queen takes, he's got knight takes followed by knight takes, which will be very strong. So trying to play queen c7 to restore it won't really work. At the same time, if you play queen d7, white has got knight e5, attacking the queen and keeping the option of playing f4. Not looking good for black. I'm not so sure why even black went into this line. There's some other threats here that could be very tricky. There's stuff like bishop b3, suddenly the queen is in danger. But queen f6. Queen f6 is just doesn't make sense. Okay, and after f4, what is the idea? The bishop has only got one square and Carlsen plays f4. Bishop only has one square. Could they try anything funny here? Does he have any other option, any in-between move? Would attack the queen, but now the queen has got this square. After bishop is b3, queen d2. Oh, I see. Very smart. Interesting, at least. But I don't think it's enough. Okay, so in that line, if he goes bishop here, queen d2. You could even play pawn takes, could you? Not sure. Queen f6, f4, bishop b3. Okay. I'm not sure. Did he play this move? And yeah, this could be the main line. The question is, where does the queen go? Simply queen d2. Queen goes to d2. Still threatening the bishop. Okay, he plays queen d2. Now queen takes c6. Okay. But yeah, black is just simply lost here. Too many pawns down. White has got this passed pawn. His only hope is if he could attack, but I don't think with the knight on f4 you can attack anything. The bishop is on the wrong side. It's just a question of how to convert. Also time. Van Forest's time is very long. It's got 4 minutes. Carlsen's got 10 minutes. It's just been... yes, they are skimming something. Yeah, so yeah, I think he plays queen d5. Oh yeah, to protect this d pawn. But this is probably the way Van Forester is playing is below what he normally plays like. Normally Van Forester gives a white a run for his money. Like Carlsen, that is. But queen d5. Now he is attacking this pawn, so I think you can protect it like this. So this phase of the game is just about consolidation of the advantage that white has. I wonder if you could even try queen to f4. Should be interesting. Person is thinking a lot here. One thing I noticed with so h4 is a bit tricky. You have to consider what to do after a move like queen to f3. Over the board, this could be very difficult to actually deal with because maybe rook f1 might not be tricky. Thank you for the follow. No, so you went for h4. I'm sure you evaluated queen h4, rook f1, queen g4, queen f4. Oh no, actually rook f4 is strong. That's winning material. Thank you, Rumbi, for the like. Rumbi, if you become a subscriber, that would be like the greatest win. What? Greywood, she's keeping an eye with Raiden. Okay, so after you're covering here, Carlsen goes for goes for like just simple consolidation. And Forester is trying to put some pressure on this pawn, but his pieces won't be able to handle it. Knight chases away the queen. You can see that the white pieces are unraveling. Now he's starting to take advantage of the position. And now the logical move would be queen f2. Just covering everything on the king side, putting pressure on d4 so that the queen cannot leave. So it's now that part which we call technique. It looks a little bit artificial, but I think it works. Just that Black's position is so bad that you can't really. Very hard for white to make a losing mistake here. Queen f2 now puts pressure on d4. This is a typical weakness in the endgame in advanced pawn, because there's so many ways of d8. Knight goes back to e2, and now this pawn falls with consequences also. Exactly. That like I have to be prim and proper now. I can't bear anything at this point. They are sitting on a rocking chair, watching. That's Raiden's new favorite thing is a rocking chair. Okay, Carlsen goes for this queen f2. This position is actually not that difficult. And here, okay, so one of the things about technique is before sort of going for what you want, you could just simply take this pawn, or you could take this important pawn. But sometimes, like, this is a weakness, so sometimes you want to keep the weakness on the position so that your opponent is engaged. Yeah, he takes this one. So your opponent is gonna worry about he should just resign here. It's really bad. He's losing pawns with each move. Now bishop d5. Then queen takes d4 is strong, threatening mate. And you're also gaining another pawn. I think after queen d4, you would just resign. It's very mediocre by Jordan. I mean, Jordan was winning some tournaments where Carlsen was in this year, so it's very weird that he's playing like this. Well, it happens. It's not. But definitely you would expect a little bit more from him. Okay, Carlsen didn't go for that. Went for this sort of text. It's very practical, very human. Not sure why you would continue here because the a4 pawn is probably gonna be lost also. It's very difficult to actually say where things really went bad for him. He was just slowly being outplayed at first. Just simple ideas. It's what's fascinating about the world champion. Soon to be former world champion. So he goes back. So how do you improve the position? Oh, it's a beautiful move here. You could play rook f1 with the idea that rook takes c5, rook takes d5, and whatever you play, let's say rook takes d5, queen f7, queen mate. It's like that tipping point where your advantage is so much that mates start presenting themselves. But something to learn which has got nothing to do necessarily with the objectivity of what's on the board is how careful Carlsen is. I mean, he had 10 minutes when he had 2 minutes or so. But still, he didn't rush. He just is taking his time, making sure everything is all right, and then executing his moves. And his moves keep on being the more, top line moves. Because it just takes moment to mess up everything. Here, they exchanged. And decided to bring his knight back. Exchange, queen exchange. I think this is probably the option he chose. Is very exchange oriented to go into an ending. Because Carlsen is very good at just converting this. He's probably gonna take the A pawn with threats of check, because the black position could be a little bit loose. The idea is a rook ending is probably won. So it's just evaluating that. But the question might be, okay, after let's say rook takes, queen check, king, let's say h2, is there anything for black? Let's say rook takes, this would be a mistake. After rook check, sorry, after this rook it would check, king would go to h7, and queen f5 check would pick the rook, so that doesn't work. Instead, Carlsen goes for a pure queen ending. These are very high in calculation. And after queen d5, it goes d4. So the one thing to know at least about these type of endings is that they are about passed pawns. Whoever is the passed pawn, after queen d2, queen f3, he went king h2, queen d5, and again, like endgame principles apply. He's putting pressure on isolated pawn, and black puts pressure on the backward pawn on b2. Now, if you go, let's say queen d2, he goes back to d5, so you're not making any progress. So here, you to make progress. It's clearly winning for white, but over the board with 2 minutes remaining, and you see they gain 10 seconds. So Jordan is betting on that, of course. The problem with queen endings, which is why it would have not have been the best option to go into set, the possibilities of a perpetual check are very high. If black gets a check here, it could be very difficult for white to hide. So Carlsen, yes. For people, it's very hard to... You want to push this pawn when the queen is on d1, but allowing him to take on b2 is very difficult. So Carlsen goes for a solid setup and goes for this h5 idea. You want to keep the king engaged somehow on the king side, so that when you eventually put pressure here, the king can join in. Or alternatively, you want the king to not have moves. So in other words, if it's stuck, to make sure that the pawn doesn't move, then this will force him to move the queen off this square. Ideally, the scenario you want is when the queen moves like this, is you can push. Now the question is, can he just push as is? Right? So he goes queen f3, and Carlsen just goes for h6. So he's gonna keep him engaged here so that he's got time to push this one. This is the most valuable MVP of the game. And he goes for this check. So this is a no-brainer. King g2, king h4. Pawn can push, I think. This d pawn now can advance. And I feel that black might have just made a mistake by allowing this. needed to figure out some other way of holding, because now it's definitely gonna be easier. Because if the queen defends here, so moves like queen d4 would be very strong, and the queen would be stuck to just defensive roles. It was lost, but this makes it a little bit easier. And the problem here is that after this check, he doesn't really have checks. Yeah, he resigned here. It makes sense. Show yours. Send the challenge on Lichess. My username is Salim. Okay, so white has got this passed pawn. It's not much to write home about, but it's enough for the black. The problem for white is the rook should actually be behind this pawn. The way it's positioned makes it very hard for him to realize much. What's your time control, Gigi? Sound good on your side. 1 2 1 2. 1 2 1 2. Can you hear me now, Gregor? Gigi Chess, I couldn't find your name on Lichess. Show yours. I can't also find your name. can send your challenge here on Salimo. Are we back, Rayon? Okay, good. So yeah, we've got a scenario like which favors white actually, because now he's got this passer moving and this knight slightly out of the game. The king could join here. The king could also join here. This check is very good because the king has to go back, and now the king can go in here. Yeah, he can go there. Ah, good. Maybe. Yeah, this is lost now. Once you've got this combination after king g6, all these pawns are lost, and there's no compensation here. He could even go, yeah, king g6 is the most accurate, because king g6, which he does now, I think should just be winning. He tries to run away. This protects the pawn, at the same time threatens actually mate. There's no way of avoiding mate now, because rook d2 is just checkmate. Rook d8, sorry. Very nice ending. That guy has been getting a lot of exposure through these chessable tours. It's a very strong young player, but he is just lost experience. Did you send your challenge? If you want to 1v1, okay, black should resign. There's no way of stopping this mate. Hey, Aline, thank you for the like and welcome. Expect the guy's game to be over. Did he resign? Not yet. He hasn't resigned. No, it should be over this game. Let's go to Duda. What's happening here? They don't have a lot of time, so they're blitzing very fast. But white is clearly better here, material-wise. He's just got more pieces. The king, however, is a little bit exposed, but I don't think it's a big deal here. You just take and you put your passed pawn. This is why this rook is here. You can just play rook h3, exchange this rook. You could keep it and just play rook g3. You exchanges. It's just going for exchanges. as much as you can. Oh, this is classic. So takes, knight takes, protecting the rook. So rook a5 is logical. Knight goes to b2. That's protecting the pawn. This pawn is very valuable. So it's a question of time, but white is clearly better. Just there's a little bit of a problem that he's only got 2 pawns. So that's why it's very important he must not exchange any pawns. So yeah, but this makes it easy for white. Rook a1. The journey ahead, and the knight will act as a barrier clearer. So if you put a rook here, you put the knight there. Knight c4 anyway. It works. Wants to just push the pawn without being harassed. So now the knight joins in now. So what's the fastest way to evict the rook from here? It's knight b2, d3 here. And the pawn can move. So here you could even chase it away from here. But I think from b4 makes sense because then it can be attacked also easily. Knight b4. Of course, he's gaining a little bit more time every time he makes a move, so very hard to believe that he's taking this much time on this move. I think yeah. Okay, he goes for knight c5. This is the added advantage of maybe sometimes keeping the king away. Pushes. Okay, now he keeps the king away. He's gonna attack this pawn and take this pawn easy. Then the king can't interfere. Very nice technique. Bash to take. He could improve other aspects of his game. So he could improve the king, for instance. Yeah. For black is sometimes the question is, okay, so normally advancing pawns is not advised for the defending side, but he's got no moves, so he ends up advancing those pawns, making it easier for white to collect them. So f5, and you just keep on improving the king. Like now, you could even try knight d3 check. Hey Muzi, thank you so much for the like and welcome. Yeah, just keep improving the king. Black has to go f5, prevent this move. Because I think if white plays this move, then it's game off. Yeah, so now you could maybe play knight d3 check, and then take this. No, and but yeah, now here. I wonder why he couldn't. here. Hey, Aldo, thank you for the like and welcome. The knight goes here. And the king can just come back. Cutting it a little bit close. So king f2. Go and deal with this pawn. King f2. This is actually a very instructive ending. So king f2. What does he do? This is his real hope. He has to go f4. Maybe black could cut off the white king from going there with the threat. Okay, that was very fast. So what happened was after king f2, he played rook h8, king went here, h2, king here, and he went king here. It's probably not the best way to do it, because you're going to end up here. Unfortunately, your pawn is not that fast. This pawn is going to fall. This pawn is eventually going to fall. Okay, how does he deal with king d6? Oh, no, it's not again. Oh yeah, of course, he's got knight here. Might just be very close to losing anyway. Yeah, no, this is just bad now. He goes there. Knight 2 goes to a6 with the threat of playing knight to b8. That is strong. Because once the knight is on b8, you can always just simply promote. So how does he deal with this? b8. Now knight d7 check. Knight b6 is simply winning. That would be interesting though. No. So maybe knight d7 check, king d6, knight b6, king c6. b7. Now knight b8, preventing the king from approaching the rook. Very smart. So the king has to make a waiting move and watch his pawns fall one by one. Now king takes h2, and he's gonna come for this pawn also. I think at this point we are in table-based zone. Table-based positions are positions that we know for certain, that we've calculated with computers, that are winning. So this is a typical, because once you go below 6 pieces, 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6. Yeah, but this is a table-based position. So his idea is to play rook b8 and simply convert. So yeah, black resigns. Very nicely done. Let's see what other games are still remaining. Okay, this is another game which is still in progress. Okay, so on paper, it's equal because you've got the same amount of pawns, but I think it's much more difficult than it looks. Black. I think what gives this position draw qualities is that the queen can always give perpetual checks, I think. The white queen. Sometimes you can't afford to leave here the protection of this square. This can be very difficult. But if queens were exchanged suddenly, it could be very lost for black. Already here black. There's some posts. Ooh. You can't, these two pieces for some reason, they're very good at coordinating with each other, but without assistance, it can be very difficult to, like without, let's say for instance, if black had his own pawns, suddenly there could be mating scenarios, but in an open position like this, the knight has got weaknesses. Best I think he can go for is a perpetual. Nothing more, I don't think. Yeah, stuff like that. So every time a knight moves, it creates these gaps that can be used. But I think that a white pop is somehow is thinking if he could exchange queens, that could be useful. But easier said than done. But definitely it's good to here. It's one of the last games actually happening. There are some other games, but okay. We'll come back to this. Let's look at what the standings are like. Official website results. Okay. So after round 5, Carlsen, let's see if we can. We will need to make a reservation for that. But basically, Carlsen is leading, followed by Fyodosiv and Ergaisi, Van Forester, who lost dismally in this game, Giri, Duda, Niao, Siran, Sarin. Okay, quick action. So the results of this this particular round are gonna be very important. Gonna cut off a few pretenders. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. The games that are currently in progress are not that important. So we're gonna end off with round 6, and then when round 7 starts, I'm gonna restart the stream, and then we'll look at round 7. All right. Thank you so much for being there, and I'll be back for round 7.